Welcome agents, today saw the release of the official Title Update 5 Patch Notes and the PTS Live Server. Now these patch notes contain quite a lot of new information, for example the new exotic talents for the Diamondback exotic rifle and much more. Now today I want to go over everything, so if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button below, subscribe for dedicated Division content, and let's get into it. Alright, so let's just get straight into the exciting stuff here. Title Update 5 will introduce two new exotics, the Diamondback exotic rifle and the Black Tusk Special Unit exotic gloves. Now unfortunately I don't have any images of these items in game, just because these items won't be available until June 8th, or between June 8th and June 10th. With this PTS they've done it a little bit different. They're kind of staggering the stuff that they want to test. So that's when the exotics and I think balancing and stuff like that will actually be coming live. So not until then will we have any images. So I'm just going to go through the talents here though, so you guys know exactly what we're going to be getting. So the Diamondback exotic rifle, this is a lever action rifle, a 5-round magazine with a 100 RPM. Now the first talent is called Agonizing Bite. Diamondback randomly marks an enemy. Hitting that enemy consumes the mark, guaranteeing a critical hit with a plus 20% total damage. A new random enemy is marked afterwards and whenever you reload. Deep Fangs, after hitting 5 marked enemies, Deep Fangs being the next talent, sorry. After hitting 5 marked enemies, gain plus 50% reload speed, plus 20% total damage, and all shots fired are guaranteed critical hits for 10 seconds. Then we've got Shedding Skin, while drawn each time a round is loaded, gain plus 20% bonus armor for 3 seconds. While holstered, each time you reload or cycle your current weapon, gain plus 8% bonus armor for 2 seconds. So this sounds like a very interesting exotic rifle, and actually I hope this is good because all the other lever action rifles in the game are pretty bad. This actually sounds very interesting. It sounds like you're going to be able to put out quite a bit of damage here. As you can imagine, every time you reload or the gun is loaded, then you get plus 20% bonus armor for 3 seconds. So that'll be after every fifth round, and then with that 5 enemies. So after you get those 10 rounds put out, then you're going to get plus 50% reload speed, plus 20% damage for all the shots fired after that point for 10 seconds. So this could actually be very, very strong. I'm trying to think if there's any talents and stuff that would work well for this, but off the top of my head I can't think of any. I'm looking forward to using this. But anyway, we'll move on to the BTS U exotic gloves, or the Black Tusk Special Unit gloves. So these are kind of like skill-based gloves, and you'll see that with these talents here. The first talent being Elemental Gadgetry. Skills that apply status effects gain plus 50% status effect duration and plus 50% skill haste. We then got Energy Infusion. Whenever you apply a status effect, your gloves become infused with that for 60 seconds. While infused, you gain plus 10% skill damage, plus 10% skill healing and repair, and plus 10% skill duration for each utility on your gear. So that's your yellow battery. We then got lastly the Charged Proxies. Whenever you throw a skill, 1.25 seconds after landing, it creates an explosion applying the infused status effect to all enemies within 6 meters. Enemies affected by the infused status effects take 50% more damage from your skills. Alright, so these gloves sound very interesting. I'm already thinking that with the fire turret, this could be very, very good. As you imagine, you apply the fire sort of turret and your gloves become infused for those 60 seconds. You get that plus 10% skill damage, plus 10% skill healing and repair, and plus 10% skill duration. Now, on top of that, the first talent, Elemental Gadgetry, skills that apply status effects gain plus 50% skill status effect duration. So you can imagine you apply the sort of fire to someone, you get that plus 50% effect duration. Then lastly, if you then throw out, say, a Seeker Mine, for example, it will blow up after 1.25 seconds, creating an explosion that will apply the infused status, being the fire damage, to all enemies within 6 meters. And then those enemies who are affected by that then take 50% more damage from your skills. So you can imagine this is actually going to be very, very good. I'm already thinking off the top of my head the fire turret might be really, really good with this. And I think people are going to create some crazy builds with this, when you consider that generally all skill mods in the game are going to be massively, massively buffed. So I can imagine something like the fire turret would be unbelievably strong in PvE. And obviously the question being that PvP is probably going to have to be scaled down a bit, for at least for PvE though. This sounds really, really cool. I'm looking forward to seeing how well these, because all of this stuff sounds good on paper, as does most things, but when you use it in the game, that's where we're going to see how it works. So between June 8th and June 10th, we'll be able to try out both of these exotics and see what they're like. But anyway, moving on, let's go over the new weapons in the game, the two new weapons. We've got the Carbine 7 and the Stoner LMG. I've got the specs for those here, so let's have a look at those. Okay, so first up we got the Carbine 7, which is a new assault rifle. It's got a 30 round mag, 790 RPM, and by default rolls with a new talent called Overflowing. Every 3 reloads from empty increases your magazine capacity by 100%. So that would increase it to, say, 60 mag. But I imagine you'll be able to put on something like a 5.56 mag on there, putting the mag size up to maybe 50. So after every 3 reloads, then it's going to go up to 100 bullets in the mag. Now, of course, with this one, it's depending on what the base damage is like, it might be compared to the P416. The RPM, I believe, is a little bit low. I think the P416 is 850. So I assume the base damage should be a little bit higher, but we're going to have to wait and see how that pans out as well. But, you know, any new assault rifle in the game, as long as it's competitive, should be good. And I would say that with this in mind, let's hope that they actually look at some of the underpowered assault rifles in the game and see if they can buff those up to the same sort of standard as the P416, which appears to be by far the outlier, aside from the Eagle Bearer, which is probably the best in the game. Now, moving on to the new the new light machine gun, which is the Stoner LMG. This has got an RPM of 580, a 200 mag capacity, and by default rolls with a new talent Overwhelm. Suppressing an enemy that is not currently suppressed grants plus 5% weapon damage for 10 seconds, and there's a max stack of 5, which means that you could get up to 25% weapon damage for suppressing an enemy that's not currently suppressed and doing damage to them. So again, with this one, it sounds cool. I mean, 200 mag capacity already puts his DPS way up there. And of course, there will be, you've got pouches in there. I wonder with these whether this will apply the large pouch, which will put it, what, to 250, and I think there's going to be a way to even increase that. You'll be looking at a mag size on this of somewhere between 300 and above, which just seems absolutely outrageous. Now, on screen, you're going to see it. Unfortunately, this image that's been taken, which is put on Reddit, I believe the person who took this image is from a skill build, so it's not the base damage here does not represent an LMG build. But I imagine with such a high capacity, and I believe it's actually got a higher RPM than the M60, that this will probably have a lower base damage than something like the M60, for example. So again, we'll have to wait and see how this works out. But any new weapons in the game for me are good as long as they compete with the current weapons. Okay, so moving on to some more noticeable additions. The patch notes confirm a new story mode difficulty to the raid, which should be very interesting because I believe there is matchmaking as well being added to the raid. So from my understanding, this means that the raid will be a lot easier for this. You'll be able to matchmake, go in, see what it's all about, and I think this is a really, really good change. This is something everyone's been asking for a very long time, and I'm glad it's being tested in Title Update 5 because I didn't think this would get in there. I'm a little bit surprised, but I'm also obviously very, very happy. They've also added the raid completion time to clan leaderboards. Now, this leaderboard ranks clans based on how quickly they're able to complete the raid as a clan-only party. Again, just another little quality of life addition to the game that should give that little bit more competitiveness between the people that are trying to go for these unbelievably fast times. I think the record now on PC is somewhere around 11 minutes, maybe. I believe from Wid's team. I can't remember. Well, not Wid's team, but Marco's team or whatever. So yeah, crazy. But yeah, these are great additions. Moving on, I want to go over all the crafting patch notes as well as some things here that are new that weren't mentioned previously. Now, the crafting bench is now upgradable and will then allow you to craft gear up to gear score of 500. It will require 1 gun and 1 gear piece of 490 gear score or higher to build, and after that the player can craft a sort of gear score 500 items. Deconstructed high-end gear pieces now predictably grants brand materials. This wasn't added before, this is new, and that's good because far too often I'll deconstruct it like a high-end and I don't get nothing, and sometimes I will, and I really don't know when I'm going to get anything. Moving on, it says blueprints that were previously only on projects, control points, or weekly vendors are now shared across all 3 sources. Again, that's a quality change, and this means if you're looking for a blueprint that used to be only on projects, you can grind alert level 3 and 4 control points instead, for example. And players can now recalibrate crafted gear and weapons as well as use them as a source for recalibration. So overall, these are some good changes to the crafting bench. I mentioned in my last video how I wish they could go one step further with the recalibration here and maybe allow us to do 1 stat and 1 talent for recalibration, but they haven't done that this time. Again, this is something I'm sure they're going to do for the future, but for now, I'm happy with these changes. I think they're really good, and I'm glad they're being tested out. Alright, so the meat of this update was obviously the skills, or skill mod overhaul, skills in general, the overhaul they're getting. Now, there are some significant changes being made to the skill mods, and as much as I know you want me to confirm everything, there's just far too much here. and it would just be really boring. I'd pretty much be just listing off figures, and which essentially they don't mean anything at this point because we've not been able to test them. But you know, essentially everything's been buffed a lot in respect of skill mods. It's very common that you'll be able to find mods in this update which would have previously had, say, 20% extra damage or plus 20% damage to have been buffed to, say, 100% damage at this point. Now, if you want to go check them all out, then you can. I'll leave a link in the description below. But to be honest, it really means nothing. It's just a load of numbers. Until you've gone and actually tested those numbers out, it's not going to mean a whole lot. So, but that's up to you. If you want to go check them out, they'll be in the description below. That's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in today's video. Lastly, I just want to end it up with this public test server sort of infographic they produced, and this will confirm everything the PTS is, or what's going to be coming out as part of the PTS. So from the first to the second, we got the 2 new main missions, Manning National Zoo and Camp White Oak. We got the Operations Dark Hours between the 3rd and the 4th. This is for the Discovery difficulty. This is the story mode, basically, difficulty. And I believe, as I said, it's going to be a lot easier. They got the new PvE experience expeditions between the 5th and the 7th. And then we got the quality of life between the 8th and the 10th. We've got gear balancing, exotic skill builds, all of that sort of stuff. Now, I am going to try my best not to release too much information about these new main missions or expeditions, or release any footage about it, because I appreciate a lot of you guys don't want to see that stuff. You'd rather just wait for it, and I myself will be doing the same, but I'd be doing a disservice to the people that do want to see that. So if you do come up against a video, I will try and make sure at the start of the video I mention that there may be footage in here that you guys want to see, possible spoilers, but more than likely I will include it in the title of the video. So if you're not interested in that, then just don't click on the video. But anyway, that's it for today, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. I'm very much excited for this PTS, even though I'm not going to be able to play it myself because I don't have the Division 2 on PC, and I'm not a PC player. But for any of you guys that do get to test this all out, have fun, and please do your job and actually test it and report back, because ultimately we're leaving it up to the PC race here to do this stuff and make sure it's actually a good place for us console players when it actually comes out here. So anyway, thanks for your support, and until the next one, guys, Epic out.